Hello and welcome to the developer update. Also the pre-final segment before Open number 1 concludes. And it's going to be a crazy one. I'm joined by Ryan. Ryan, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. I mean, exciting games yesterday, even more exciting games today. And now it's only the grand finale left. But before that, we've got so much content to fit into this.
Dude, we have so much to unpack, and we have actually been unpacking throughout these 2 days all the new stuff that you'll be seeing with update 10.4, which is coming when?
It is coming in less than 3 days. 2 days, actually. It's Tuesday. Or April 5th. April 5th already.
Perfect. So yeah, we'll have a balance update there, and we will have the Forgotten Treasures card drop. So this is going to be nice. This is going to be juicy. I know already leaked that it's going to be codename FT, and that is Forgotten Treasure. So those of you that might have guessed it, and some of you guessed it, that's it.
It wasn't full trousers.
It wasn't full trousers. Exactly.
Well, I want to give a quick shout out and big thank you to our GWENT partners who helped us with revealing all of the cards so far. You've seen all the faction cards, and yeah, I think they've done a great job of helping out, creating content, some really funny ones in there, some really high professional ones, and in general, I think I appreciate everyone coming together and joining in on this whole reveal process.
Yeah, you carried us all the way to here, and actually we'll have this video split into a couple segments. We'll start off with Ryan and Jean, who will be showing the final reveals for this set, as well as talking about the changes coming with update 10.4, meaning the balance stuff that you can see, you'll be able to see just in the next couple days. So it's coming very, very soon. Hope you guys are as excited as I am. Can't wait to jump in once again and test the new cards. And you're gonna see all of them, and they are magnificent.
Yeah, once again, I'll be split between playing new stuff and testing out the stuff that's been updated and changed.
Exactly.
But more on that later. After our big segment with Jean, we've got you coming back, and you're joined by Ola Rutkowska, and you're going to be talking about the new seasons and especially the new yearly tree. Shall we talk about what it is called?
It's the Year of the Cursed Toad.
It's the toad! Oh my goodness. Oh my
Perfect.
goodness. You know, Mr. Beast was asking for toads in the game, and now it's actually, we just decided to make it the year of the cursed toad.
Exactly.
So
the more toads, the merrier. Yeah, Ola will be sharing also a little bit of stuff when it comes to live ops plans for this year. So don't miss that. We also talked a little bit about the journeys, so which are making a comeback, and what you can expect with those. So it's going to be a nice one. And of course, we'll close it off with Ryan and little old me, and we'll be able to watch the rest of GWENT Open number 1.
Exactly. So I hope you have a really good time. There's so much content in here that we got to get going. We got to get going, Bodo.
We got to get going. Okay. So I will now throw it over to Ryan and Jean.
Hello again, everyone. This time, I'm joined by the lovely Jean. Thank you for taking the time, Jean.
Hey, always glad to be here.
So we're here to talk about update 10.4 and the balance changes that are coming with it, but most importantly, obviously, the included card drop. And this is a very special card drop because it is directly inspired by our Golden Necker project, which we're working on. These cards that we're adding to multiplayer Gwent are also featured in the single-player spin-off, but they do have separate abilities in both versions. For now, I think that's enough of talk about this secret project, because we're here to talk about what is coming to Gwent in just, I think, 2 days. Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, that's already it. And I'm super excited for it. It is called Forgotten Treasures. So why don't you tell me what these Forgotten Treasures are all about, Jean?
Yes. So you guys already know a lot of the faction cards that are coming to Gwent in Forgotten Treasures. So, but we have particularly focused on neutrals this time, bringing powerful utilities that many decks are going to be interested in, as well as some more special interactions where you're going to have to take quite interesting decisions that involve your opponent. Yeah.
Well, a completely new way to play Gwent. I'm excited for it. I think everyone else is as well. So why don't we jump into it with, I think, probably one of my favorite cards of the whole drop, because it is the famous, the legendary Erendite.
Yes.
I mean, just the art alone is pretty nice. I thought that the art was so nice that we used the background for this presentation as well. So it is a legendary special card at 9 provision. Those 9 provisions will be very important as well. But for now, let's look at the ability. It's an Echo, and it damages an enemy unit by 0, then boosts the lowest powered ally unit by the excess damage dealt. At the end of your turn, if you have more points than your opponent, increase the damage by 1 wherever this card is. So it doesn't matter if it's in your deck, in your hand, or in the graveyard, but as long as you've got more points on the board, this will tick up by 1 every turn, right?
Yes, absolutely. So the design of this card was quite inspired by its appearance in the Blood and Wine expansion of The Witcher 3, right? Where the card grows stronger if you are able to prove yourself worthy of it. And of course, in this version, as it appears in Gwent, you can expect your opponent to make your life harder and maybe not try to deny you letting this card grow if he suspects that you're running it. It's an echo card, right? The coming back of that mechanic. Some players were asking for it for some time. And yes, in general, Erendite is intended to be a control option. Actually more geared toward points land decks, right? Which are going to be able to control the score and as such let that card grow. It's also quite stronger if you're starting, which is interesting because usually control options are stronger in the opposite scenario.
Ooh, yeah. That's true. And I mean, because it's an echo card, obviously once you've played it, your opponent will be aware that you might have access to it again and will try even harder to prevent it, right?
Absolutely. And it can bring some interesting interactions, right? Where like you might be interested in pushing bleeding in round 2 in a very aggressive manner so as to grow that card stronger for round 3, right? And one more thing, at 9 provision, it is in direct competition with other control option of that slot, and namely Heatwave and Vigor's Muzzle. So it's a spot that we keep developing, right? We like having all of these different options that bring different things to your deck.
Spicy. I like it. All right, so Erendite is the first one. I'm pretty excited to see how it shapes the games that it's included in, because as you said, I feel like especially round 2, normally you, as the player that is being bled, you don't want to commit too much, but if you've got in the back of your mind that sword that's going to attack me later on is growing every time, you might play it a bit differently. So thanks for that, Jean. Let's look at the next card, and it is called Arcane Tome. Also, I really love the art that the artists have created this time around again, so I want to give a shout out to those first. But now let's take a look at this brand new legendary artifact, and it's only 6 provision, so rather cheap to include into your deck. And its ability reads Zeal Order. Play a special card from your deck and then move self to the opposite row. If there is no space on the opposite row, destroy self, and it's got a cooldown of 1, which reads at the end of your turn. Oh no, that's later on, right? The cooldown works with the order, obviously. But at the end of your turn, if it's not on cooldown, destroy self. So please help me wrap my head around this.
Yeah, it's actually quite simple. It's just that the tooltip ends up being kind of roundabout. Basically, you play the card, you click it, you get to tutor a special card. Well, that's great, right? But then it moves to your opponent's side of the board, which means that your opponent has now the ability to click it and tutor its own special, but then it gives it back to you. And if one of you decide, well, no, that's enough, I cannot allow my opponent to keep playing specials like this, well, you don't click it, and at the end of your turn, it's not on cooldown, and it destroys self.
I see. Okay, so you're, in a way, helping your opponent fight some cards if you feel like you will have the greater gain out of this, right?
Exactly. And it's what I was talking about when I was mentioning these special interaction cards, right? Because this is very much a card that you play and you have a discussion with your opponent, right? Like, am I willing to play one more special at the cost of my opponent maybe playing one more special? And it's a dilemma, right? Like, you're always thinking, should I click that one more time? It's also the reason why it's so much cheaper than regular tutors, because playing it means that you're taking a risk.
That's tricky. There's a lot of mind games involved here. I can see that already. Okay, I think that's it for Arcane Tome. Let's look at the next card, which, spoiler alert, it's another artifact, and it is called...
And it's also way worse to read.
True. It is called Mysterious Puzzle Box. Another neutral, this time an epic, and its ability reads Disloyal. So you're telling me you're playing this on the opponent's side?
Yes.
And then it's got Deploy. Spawn a 7-power Djinn on the opposite row and choose a card from your hand. Adrenaline 2. Spawn a 7-power Djinn on the opposite row and destroy self instead. The order reads, pick a card from your hand. At the end of your turn, transform highest provision chosen card or cards into Think from the Box and then banish self. So, first of all, Think from the Box. That is another card that we can show straight away, right, to make it a bit easier to understand this card. And that is a 13-power token, which is doomed, looks awesome, and only appears through Mysterious Puzzle Box, right? So,
yes.
All right. What's happening here?
Okay, I promise the entire drop is not like this. But this is probably my favorite card of the drop. An idea that was very dear to me. And it's basically an auction game. So the main idea is you pick a card from your hand, right? And because the card is disloyal, it is now on your opponent's side of the board, which means that your opponent has the opportunity to click its order and pick a card from his hand. Now, regardless of if he clicks the order or not, the card at the end of the turn, it looks at the cards that were picked, and then the highest provision one. And if like both of them were the highest, it means both of the picked card, they get transformed into Thing from the Box. So obviously you'd like to pick a very weak card, right? Like a 4 provision card that it gets transformed into this super powerful 13-point unit. But obviously, if you pick such a weak card, you can expect your opponent to bid something bigger, which means that you're gonna lose the bid. So it's like this risk of like, how much am I willing to bid, and at the same time I do want to profit from this. So like, what do I expect my opponent to bid, and whatnot. Now, to explain the rest of the ability, the regular deploy, it's gonna have 7-power Djinn spawn on your side, right? That provides a bit of tempo. The adrenaline here is to prevent using this card in a scenario where both of you have very little cards in hand, and in which it means that the auction decision is way poorer, right? We thought that this was not interesting, that like it would have been a way to abuse the card to prevent, make last say worse and whatnot. So in these specific scenario, you still get the 7-power Djinn as tempo, but the entire pick thing, it just does not happen.
Okay. All right. Yeah, if you say it like that, it actually is quite easy to understand. A little bit of a mind game as well included in this one, where you bid against your opponent, and whoever bids the highest, they gain less value on it, but they gain value compared to the opponent.
Exactly, they do gain value, right? I mean, not necessarily, because you could bid your Masquerade Ball and get it transformed into Thing from the Box, in which case you probably lost value, but at the same time, if you think that doing so denied your opponent more value, it might have been the right play.
Especially if you don't have the right cards to proc the scenario that you're bidding.
Exactly.
And then it would have been a dead scenario anyways. I like
Absolutely, and that's some of the complexity of the card, which is something that I really love, right?
Wow.
Like this entire auction thing, it definitely rewards you for having a good guess of what your opponents might have in hand and what their thought process might be.
Mm-hmm. All right. Another one look at the thing from the box. I think it's a really cool token, and I hope to see it a lot in my games, especially on my side when I win the bid. But for now, let's move on to the next one. It is called Vial of Forbidden Knowledge, and this is another artifact, but a 4-provision artifact. So this one is extremely cheap to include into your deck. It's a golden one.
Still gold, yeah.
Yeah. And to be honest, I think this actually might be the most interesting one I've found in this card drop, because it is something that players have been asking for in a very different way,
Yes.
but for a very long time. So let's take a look at the ability of Vial of Forbidden Knowledge. As you said, it's gold, it's 4-provision, it's an artifact, and it's got the ability which reads Zeal Order, boost an allied unit by 4 and give it Vitality 4. All right, that's as simple as it gets. Boost by 4, give Vitality 4, but now the very, very interesting part is, at the start of the game, if both players have this card in their deck, summon self to a random allied row and transform. And the thing it transforms into is the unsealed version, which has the ability Zeal Order, look at your opponent's starting deck. Okay, so... okay. Please, Joel, go ahead.
Yes. So this is Vial of Forbidden Knowledge is our GWENT's Gentleman Agreement. If both players decide to include that card in their deck and match, it means that they will have access from the beginning of the game to the unsealed version, which they are going to be able to click to know exactly what the deck list of their opponent is. It is a gentleman's agreement to play with open deck lists. Of course, knowing the deck list of your opponent does not mean that you know what's in his hand. It does not mean that you know the order in which the cards are in his deck. It just means you know the deck list, just as if you were playing tournaments, right? And you had shared the deck list prior to the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And you can keep looking at the opponent's deck, right? It's got a cooldown of 1, so you can keep using the ability while it's on the board.
Yeah, this is a quality of life thing, right? The card is still gonna go away after the first round, but at least it means that you don't have to go ahead and like memorize everything in a single go. You can click it again to see what was there. All
right, now this is really spicy. I mean, even if you notice how your Vial of Forbidden Knowledge does not transform at the start of the game, you know your opponent is not running it, so maybe he's got something to hide, right?
Absolutely. Even not playing it is giving some info away, which is something that is really interesting about that card.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I hope players like it and check it out. And I'm excited to hear what people think about it, because I think it's going to be a very a card that creates a lot of discussion around it. Yes. So yeah, I'm really excited for that. Awesome. Do you have anything else to say to the Vial, or shall we move on to the Ring?
Move on. Let's move on.
And the Ring I mentioned is the Ring of Favor. It is a special card this time around. 8 provision, epic. And it reads, this card starts in your hand. Boost an allied unit by 4. And while in hand, at the end of your turn, increase the boost by 2. When your opponent passes, banish self from hand and draw a card. When moved to the deck, banish self. Interesting.
I promise this is the last of these super long text cards.
Okay.
But this one's actually pretty straightforward. As long as you have it in hand, it boosts the value of the boost increases by 2, right? And you start the game with it in hand.
Gets boosted.
But if your opponent passes, you lose the card. And so basically the entire principle of Ring of Favor is to gamble on your opponent passing or not. And it can be a very strong card to contest round 1, right? Because it means that you can go very deep into it and have like this very strong play. At the same time, if you miss the window to play it and your opponent passes, so the card gets banished, you lost not only the opportunity to play it, right? Because potentially it was a lot of points that you could have gotten from that card, but also the average provision of your deck, it actually went down. So it is not a free include in your deck. And the rest of the effect is to prevent basically being able to play it again later. So shuffling it back to your deck, all this kind of stuff, it will, the ring will break. You won't be able to use it that way.
Okay. And I'm wondering, is there a sort of way for your opponent to know that you've got it in hand at the start of the game?
No, there is not. Well, of course, depending on the current meta, they can have an educated guess, depending on how you're playing and whatnot. But your opponent will not see a VFX that like, is not going to get a tell that you have this card in hand. So it's purely on you to guess when your opponent is going to pass. You have no excuses.
Oh man, I already see the clips on YouTube and on Twitch and the highlights where you're ready to play this insanely big Ring of Favor and then suddenly the opponent passes a card too early or something and then it's gone. I like the memes. All right, perfect. So you said this was the last library of attacks, yeah?
Yes, I promise.
All right, then let's take a look at Ornate Censer. And it's another 8 provision card, a special, a gold one as well, an epic. And its ability, you're right, is a lot shorter. It says swap the power of the highest and lowest power unit on the battlefield. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, much simpler, right? Still, simple but depthful, because this is a Scorch-like card, right? It can potentially create a huge point swing. It can also completely backfire and hurt you. So, what we expect from this card is probably that it's going to see some usage in Swarm decks, which don't naturally go wide and have a more easier time generating low power units.
Yeah. So I see that there's no distinction between your opponents and your own side, right? It's all
absolutely.
the battlefield. So, okay.
It is completely possible for you to swap the power of your highest unit with your opponent's lowest unit. It's all about how the board is set up.
I think this is another perfect Dandelion Show card, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's another highlight card. Awesome. All right, let's take a look at the next one, which is called Troll Porter. And look at that. It's another fan favorite. It's an Ogroid, a 6/6, and it's got a deploy melee ability, which says banish all cards in your hand and then draw as many cards. Well, would you look at that? What can you tell me about this ability?
From what I've been told, it used to exist in a very slightly different form back from the times of Beta Gwent. But what I can say is at 6 provision, this card falls into this category we've been developing of cheap consistency option. Now, very obviously, this effect is much more potent. It also comes with much more risk because, they all get banished, right? So you end up having to commit your expensive cards very early on if you don't want them to be banished when you're going to play a Troll Bolter to reshuffle your hand.
Wow, so...
and we've seen some, we've thought of very interesting uses of this card, but we're really looking forward the kind of uses that players will come up to.
So you can theoretically thin your deck by 9 cards. in
Yeah.
one turn.
Yeah, you can.
But just to make sure that people
Do you
are...
want to?
Yeah.
Are you sure about this?
That's the question. That's the question. Maybe you shouldn't mill yourself if you're playing against Nilfgaard, for example.
Maybe.
But okay. So it also, just to highlight it again, banishes the card, so they don't go to your graveyard. So it's not a lippy card. It actually removes them from the game for you at this game. Yeah. Okay.
Well, it could be a lippy card because in a way it also means that you're not putting in the graveyard cards that you don't want in there. Which means that when you are going to play lippy, the cards that end up in your deck are only cards that you're interested in too.
Oh boy, I tried to make it nice for Flake, and now you turned it around. I'm sorry, Flake.
Sorry, Flake.
All right, there's 2 more cards that we have to reveal, and let's first take a look at Rune Mage. It is a human mage, legendary card, a legendary gold card, which costs 10 provision and gives you 4 power, and it reads for the rest of the game. Your create effects show you 5 options instead of 3, and then you also get to create and play a runestone to check the effect out.
Exactly. So, I think the first thing I want to say is that if you praise random gives back. Yeah, this is everything that Rune Mage is about, right? It brings a lot of utility if you are running a lot of create cards and by upgrading all of these effects. And it does work on some effects which are create but don't necessarily have create written in them. So Shoop. Yes.
Yes. So you get all 5 Shoop options.
Absolutely. And another thing to note is there is only 5 runestones. So when you create a runestone, since it happens right after you've upgraded create effect, it actually means that you get to pick the runestone of your choice.
That is awesome. So before people scream RNG, I don't want too much RNG in my game, this is kind of the opposite, right? It gives you even more consistency with your create.
Yeah, like it's definitely meant to be played in decks that are a bit more on the fun side, right? Because the variance that RNG brings can be a very nice way to have a change of pace, right? At the same time, Rune Mage brings more control if that's what you're looking into, and that can make the entire experience more enjoyable in general.
All right. That's the Rune Mage for you, everyone. And now, let's just say most people have seen this card that is gonna appear on your screen now in a second. It's the infamous, the hiding behind shelves in the corner of your picture. It is the very how do you want to say it? It's the Golden Necker. It's the Golden Necker, everyone.
Of course, it would have been very complicated not to add that card to the game.
It's a special card, which only costs 9 provision to include in your deck, a legendary one, and its ability reads: deploy. If your starting deck does not have cards with a provision cost of 10 or more, play the top unit, special, and artifact from your deck. Okay, this is a very valuable artifact. Artifact in a way where it looks like a little trophy on this rock. Maybe it's actually alive, I don't know. But to me, this ability is just like, okay, you get to play 3 cards from this, right?
Yes. What I want to start with is that designing Golden Necker was not easy, right? How do you design a card when there are such big expectations around it?
That's true.
And then it hit us. The best way to go at it is to take a design where there has been big expectations for it to come back. And that design is Siri Nova. It's very obvious now, but this is Serenova deck support. And what's quite interesting is that the explosive effect we've put on Golden Necker, which allows you to play these 3 cards from your deck, it actually works quite well with Serenova type decks, because naturally there's going to be less variance, right? These decks, they are less polarized, and so the range, in the provision range of the card that you expect to find from your deck is way smaller than in a regular deck.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And
I still have to process this. I mean, he's finally here. Like,
yeah,
I at this point I'm not even. I mean, the ability is so crazy that I'm actually listening to it instead of just being amazed that he's finally in the game. But yeah, okay, Serenova's back. Okay. There's even more coming for Serenova, right?
Yeah, so we expect a lot of experimentation to happen with Serenova, right? Because these cards are neutral, it means that you can pretty much try anything you want with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided to bring some support. And by that, I mean that we've buffed a bunch of cards, taking them down from 10 provision to something more accessible to Serenova decks, so usually 9. And there's 11 of these cards. So we're not going to go into details, but I want to talk a bit about design thought process, right? Because we see the entire idea with Serenova decks is that, well, some cards are inaccessible to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the big finishers, the big juicy stuff, you should not have access to.
Yeah.
At the same time, the definition of what is a high payoff card and the kind of stuff that you should and should not have access to has changed.
Mm-hmm.
And so we considered that there was a need to introduce a bit more interesting options in the 9 range.
Wonderful. I'm excited to net deck a good Serenova list and test it out on Tuesday. Yeah, that concludes our 21 cards that are coming on Tuesday. The final reveal, the Golden Necker. I hope everyone's excited to try them out on Tuesday. And with that, I think we can take a look at the rest of the balance changes. We've already shown our first batch here, which are in favor of Serenova decks, but there's more as well. So unless you've got anything else to say, Jean?
Let's move to the regular changes.
Let's move to the regular changes. I mean, Red is probably also already discussing all the new cards, so let's take a look at what other things people can expect. And the first thing is another neutral card, while we're on the topic of neutrals, and it is a Lady of the Lake.
Lady of the Lake.
Oh, I'm sorry, I meant the Lady of the Lake. And obviously, in the past, it was a shield support card, kinda.
Yeah.
But now, what does it do?
So with the addition, with the addition of Iron Knight to the game, it felt very natural to take a look back at Lady of the Lake, since these two cards are connected in the lore. And we want to tie them a bit more in terms of design. So we've reworked Lady of the Lake to be a tutor specifically for Echo Card. Now, the fact that it's so limited to Echo Card justifies the fact that it has one more power point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, well, how many Echo Cards are you expecting to run in your deck? Well, the very maximum 2, 3 sounds like a bit much already. At the same time, you do have to consider that if you ever bricked your hand, you have the possibility to re-mulligan the eco card on the following turn if you drew Lady of the Lake, right? So that you can still tutor it from your deck. One thing I want to add. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
French, I pronounce the H when I should not. Is that for you shield lovers out there, we have not completely removed Lady of the Lake old ability from the game. We've actually moved it to Watchmen. So it's going to be even easier to use because, well, Watchmen's a bronze, right?
Oh yeah. So Watchman is now your go-to shield character, and for all your shieldy needs. What else do we have? We've got another neutral card that we've, slightly adapted or buffed. We could just say buffed because of what other cards are coming. And it is Verification. The known spell to transform your artifacts into a bear, or your opponent's artifacts as well. But now it costs a little bit less.
Yeah, going from 6 provision to 5. So with this drop, we're adding 7 new artifacts to the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that had us take a look back at Verification, and we realized that, well, considering the condition that it was tied to, the payoff wasn't necessarily, quite enough. And at the same time, we also feel like at 5 provision, it might be easier to justify potentially, because it's still not going to be the main way you're going to use it, using it offensively, right? As a way to deny your opponent from a specific artifact.
All right. That's Verification for everyone. Let's take a look at Northern Realms. And now the upcoming changes are made to cards that have been talked about a lot, but I think it's a clever way of tackling the discussioning around the Bernard student and the Aretusa student, and especially the cards that grow out of those, the alumni. But what have we done here?
So the patience of the 2 students have now been role locked to their respective order role locking. So to explain a bit more, what used to happen is that there was this Bernard student on the melee row, right? And you would move it to the range row. That would deactivate the order, but the card would still grow under the patience, right? Which meant that in the next turn, Shani was able to potentially bring it back, and the card had grown a lot.
Yeah.
So because of this, movement didn't feel like a very good answer to alumni decks. Now, I want to talk a bit about what went into the design process in there. So back when we first designed Patience, we actually took the decision to not limit Patience to the row the unit was limited to. And it was a decision taken out of concern over these cards' power level. Remember, at the time, Alumni had not come out, right? And in the first 2 drops of Price of Power, the Patience cards were not so strong. Now, obviously, Alumni came out, the Patience cards were way more stronger, and what we also ended up realizing over some time is that the way Patience was behaving with Rollock was not necessarily intuitive to players. And as I was saying, it was limiting the impact on that movement had on the deck. So we decided to change this by addressing the tooltips, not by changing the keyword. So card like Letitia, which is roll-locked, still is able to grow her patience anywhere. Now, the reason we decided to answer it that way is because we considered that one day, we don't really know, it's possible that we might want to explore that concept further, right? Imagine a card that on one row would have patience and on the other row would do something else. We don't know. This is very much up in the air, but it does open the door.
I see.
And one last thing I want to say is that this is not a final answer, right? Like, Alumni deck is a deck that we'll keep observing. Some interesting things is that lately we've actually seen its play rate drop quite a lot. Once again, and this time because of the influence of the Siege Engine deck that has been quite rising and proving quite a powerful option for NR.
I see. So, I remember playing against alumni, and these moving the students always felt like a very band-aid solution that in the end of the game didn't feel like it had an impact on the game as much, because the real power laid in the later rounds where they benefited from this patience growing. So I can definitely see this having a big impact on the deck, depending obviously on if movement options will be popular in other decks, but maybe that will give that a boost as well. All right, so that's it for Northern Realms, what we want to highlight here, and let's take a look at what we did with a popular Nilfgaard leader ability. Double Cross is now giving you 1 less provision for your deck.
Yeah, quite a simple change. Basically, the assimilate decks have been performing well. We're fine with this. We don't think the situation is out of hand. But Double Cross has proven to be a key part of this strategy, and well, it doesn't really warrant the leader ability staying at that very specific 16 provision range.
Yeah.
And especially with the upcoming Rune Mage, because I'm pretty sure that some of you have already realized that this would be a card that might be quite interesting in assimilate decks, and especially in the older versions of assimilate deck that used to run a lot of these create cards. So, yes, a bit of a preemptive nerf.
All right. Next up, we've got Syndicate, and Syndicate has a couple of buffs and changes coming up, and especially what we want to talk about is the following crime cards. The first one being Event-type Plunder, which got actually changed or reworked into a 4 provision card, which creates a 4 provision unit with fee. Maybe
you can, I think you can still read the others. And
yeah, we've got the Bare Knuckle Brawler as well, which got a fee added to the card, which will now cost 1 and damage the highest power enemy unit by 1. Pretty cool. Actually, it sounds like a small addition, but I think it gives the card a lot more value to you. And then we've got
emergency spender, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, spenders are always hard to come by if you get them eliminated by your opponent, for example. So yeah, especially in a bronze card. And now Pickpocket gives you 1 more profit, so keeping in mind that you can pair it with Line Pockets, this will instantaneously fill your pouch, summoning Flying Ordanian, for example. And then we've got Crown Splitter Thug, which got 1 damage increase.
Yeah, so in Syndicate, in general, we've took Dispatch to focus on the crime archetype a bit. Basically, we think that in terms of viability, it's really not that far. And especially since we think that their payoff cards still have some very great potential. Cards like Cleaver, cards like Tunnel Drill, right? Please try the new version. And with the addition of the new Shitty Vendor, which is both a tribute and a crime card, we considered looking at their lower costed options to try to improve the deck, the way the deck flows. Event-type Plunder is going to be a key part of this, because you can now use it as a way to fix for your spenders. Instead of running Fence, you get to actually run a crime for your synergies. And it's even better considering that some of the fee options at full provision have been improved, right? Like in the previous patch, we had a buff for Eternal Fire Disciple, which has been quite appreciated. The fee to Bare Knuckle Brawler, as we said, is an emergency option. At the same time, when you are, working with Tunnel Drill, it can be quite interesting because it allows you to line up targets. When you need to hit a target by 1, and it costs you 2 coins to hit it by 3, it feels a bit weird, right? So if at the beginning of you click Bare Knuckles Brawler to get it down 1 point, and then you do everything with Tunnel Drill, you get to do some economy.
You know what, John?
And yep,
I might just give Tunnel Drill another go, because it's been on the shelf for quite a while now after being used a lot in the past, but maybe the time is right. And you know what else has been on my card shelf for quite a while?
Let me know.
A Scoia'tael deck by the names of Dwarfs. And so why don't we take a look at our biggest focus of this patch, which is the Dwarven archetype, right?
Yes, we are bringing a huge focus on the Dwarf archetype, following Giant Slayer. It seemed right. So in general, we've tried to solidify Dwarves' unique take on the way they have armor synergies. We also fleshed out their identity as a point slam archetype that benefits from resilience, that's unstalken, and we even have doubled on a bit on this idea of non-death blow damage.
That's been a staple for a very famous bronze dwarf
Yes.
in the past, yeah.
Yes. There's actually quite a lot of cards that are being touched, so either tweaked, reworked, straight up buffed. So we're not going to go into all of these, kind of like how we talked about Siege Machine in 10.2, right? So you'll want to check out the patch note to see the full list. But let's still go into some of the changes. And first one, I believe, is Roadie Dwarf, yes.
It got an additional armor back.
Exactly. That seems little, right? So it used to have this 1 point of armor when it came out, and I think it was actually hotfixed quite quickly. But times have changed. Times have changed a lot, and in the current context, we think that this is actually a very strong buff to Dwarf, because they have some of these cards, and especially Brotherhood, that beneficiate from all of their units having at least 1 point of armor. So it's gonna make the entire setup way more easy.
Awesome.
And speaking of the Roadie Dwarves, we have a change to Zoltan Warrior. I'll let you present it.
Sure, yeah, it's got 13 provision now and 4 power, and its ability got completely changed. Now it says deploy damage to enemy units by 3, and for each unit that survived, spawn a Rowdy Dwarf on this row. Barricade at the end of your turn, damage random enemy by 1. So, as you said, playing around with the non-death blow archetype or like interaction, and also spawning Rowdy Dwarfs if you fulfill that.
Exactly. I think the first thing I want to say is that Zoltan, I think it used to be around like 10 or 11 provision. It's now a very strong payoff for the archetype, and these kind of cards are quite important into being a driving force for these decks. The reason we kind of doubled down on this design is because we think it's something that is kind of unique to Dwarf, and it also actually works quite well with that because they have all of these different pings. So the one that we're adding to Zoltan Warrior, of course, but also the one that you can find on Dwarf Berserkers. And these pings are actually able to finish off targets that you will have potentially left with only 1 or 2 points of power.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how a beefy high-end provision card helps out the archetype. So yeah, I've definitely got a hearty hankering for Gwent now. For dwarfs, I should say. But we've got more changes, and let's take a look at what we have that we want to highlight as well. We've got Munro, he's gaining another charge. We've got the Dwarven Berserker, which is now 1 provision cheaper, but it also loses 1 armor. And then we've got...
Focus a bit on these two first.
Yeah, sure.
So the 1 more charge to Munro is quite interesting, right? And especially as we've introduced Zoltan Warrior as another way to spawn token. Part of the reason behind this change is, of course, to make it stronger, but also as compensation for that change we're making to Dwarf Berserker, losing 1 point of armor. We still consider it a buff because we think that at 4 provision, Dwarf Berserker becomes quite easier to include, and it's a pretty interesting option for the archetype, especially as you have to consider that under the Dwarf Leader ability, it actually has 4 armor.
Yeah, true. All right, now we've got 2 more changes or reworks, you could say. The first one is the famous Cranberry. Dennis now has 7/7, so 7 power, 7 provision, and then the deployability reads: boost adjacent units by the amount equal to their armor. let's just say this, to me, sounds like a lot of point potential in dwarves.
It definitely is. It is more reward towards armor stacking. At the same time, this is not the thing that dwarves are the best at, right? They are usually really good at having armor everywhere, not necessarily humongous value in a single unit. So it can definitely make some pretty good tempo plays with this. But it is not... It's a different way of interacting with armor than you could see, for instance, in Skellige.
Oh yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, speaking of different interactions with armor, we've got the Mahak Marauder as well at 4 power and 5 provision, and its deployability reads gain vitality equal to the armor on an allied unit. Barricade boosts self instead.
Yes. The first thing I want to highlight is that Mahak's Marauder old ability, the bonded one, is not completely gone from the game. We've actually moved it to Dryad Grovekeeper. But yeah, more specifically on Marauder, this is one more of these armor interaction cards. And one thing to consider is that, once again, under the dwarf leader ability, you have a default 1 armor. So if you're playing that ability, you're going to be able to boost directly instead of using vitality.
Nice. I'm sure there's people that will always like some new tools in their deck lists. Maybe some people defend older deck lists, try to go with the more conservative ones. But speaking of defending, okay, this was a very
that's very
rough
clever
transition, but here we go. We've got Figgis Maluzzo, and he's back with a new ability which reads Defender, Order, move self to the other row. So no more splitting the power, no more spawning another dwarf. It now has 7 power for the 9 provision, still got 2 armor, but yeah, it can move itself now.
Yeah, so Figgis was always kind of considered a weaker defender compared to the other options. With the introduction of, with the buff to Viggo's muzzle, it was also one that was weak to it. And so basically we decided to rework it into something that is more standalone, not necessarily tied to dwarf. And its own unique take is this order that allows it to kind of dynamically, once per game, right? Because it's not an order that you get to reuse, change which targets it wants to protect by changing row.
Now, I'm not sure if everyone can hear it, but I've got some sirens outside, so the Defender Police is already on the way.
Wow.
But no, I'm excited to see how this maybe also improves other archetypes. In general, giving Suetel a more flexible, you should say, defender. And yeah, I think that's it. That's all the balance changes we want to highlight today, right?
Yeah, that's all, folks. Of course, there's still some stuff that we left out, and especially in the case of Dwarf, because there's a lot of changes in there. So you'll want to check the patch notes. But yeah, that's going to be it for us.
Yeah, I feel like looking at the time, we've got about 50 minutes in on this one. It's a hefty update coming with 10.4. So lots to talk about, especially with these new cards. But not only that, we've got a whole rework of the Dwarven archetype in here, a whole buff to that. So I'm excited for Tuesday. Some people have said, well, 21 cards, where's the expansion? No, it's a card drop. But to me, just highlighted by how much we talked about the first 4 or 5 cards only, there's so much stuff in this drop. And I think there's some cards that will change the way that we play the game totally. So yeah, super excited for Tuesday. I hope you are as well. Thank you so much for taking the time and joining me once again, Joe. It's always a pleasure to have you here.
Always nice.
And now I'll hop on out of here because Burja is going to be joined by the lovely Ola. And yeah, please welcome them. They're going to be talking about the yearly trees and changes to season. So that's all from us, and goodbye. I'll see you later for the outro.
See ya, everyone.
Hello and welcome back. Welcome back. I am here with a special guest who you might know from one of Jason Slama's stream back in the day. But if you do not know her, her name is Ola Rutkowska. Ola, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm a little bit stressed, but I hope that you'll forgive me for it. But I'm very glad that, Pavel, you welcome me here, and
Of
I
course.
can be here with you.
Always, always. For those of you that do not know you, can you introduce yourself and tell us what you do on GWENT, the Witcher card game?
So I'm the product owner. I'm responsible for live operations. So, for example, events, products, and other activities that you can encounter. And spoiler alert for seasons that today we'll be talking about with Pavel.
Yes, exactly. And we'll start off because, as you guys know, in the last patch notes, we mentioned that a new yearly tree will be coming. So, and the Great Oak year will finish. So, we are introducing the Year of the Cursed Toad, if I remember correctly. Tell us, what are the biggest changes coming with this update?
So, the new year, new theme. So this is cool. In the reward book, we'll have new page with new yearly tree, as always, in the middle of the page on top. On top of that, we will introduce some seasonal trees in the new year page. So we will have 11 seasonal trees. So 2 new trees related to Forgotten Treasure update, with really, really nice rewards for completing them, and 9 trees that will be connected to the season of Elf, Viper, and Magic.
Nice.
So there's a lot of content there, especially for the new players. But there's also something interesting. There's a change in the old trees. So those 9 trees that we released previously will no longer have quest notes in them. So all the players that unlock those notes without completing the quests will now find them completed.
Nice.
And the rewards added to their account.
That's really cool.
After the update. Yep.
So you get a lot of cool free stuff, right?
Free stuff, because first you needed to unlock the notes.
Yeah.
But the quests were a little bit updated. Some of them were really hard to complete. And we were thinking that, that they are not that fresh. So because we are bringing them back to make them easier and more accessible for all our players. And on top of that, as mentioned before, we will add 2 new trees. So connected to the update to the cards. So you'll be able to learn more about the lore and more cool stories.
Nice.
And of course, unlock cool rewards. So this is also always cool.
Yes, you're the specialist of all the cool and awesome rewards. Plus all the funny ones, like all the funny trinkets for Shoop, like the funny ones. You like to have a good laugh, and also a lot of like cute stuff that is added to Gwent is courtesy of your imagination and your cool ideas for it.
Yeah, I know that we are a serious game, and sometimes we need to be really strict with our stuff. But I really like the wacky things with Shoop and those bunny ears or pumpkin heads. Yeah, I think pumpkin heads is my favorite. So it's funny.
Yeah, it's creepy but cool. Moving on, speaking of trees, when do you think we'll get a little bit more trees coming into the game? Because it's something that players always ask about, like, when are there going to be more trees that I can, spend my points on?
Yeah, so as was mentioned, here we'll have 1 new yearly trees, 11 seasonal trees. But what I didn't mention, I'm sorry for that, those 11 trees will be only available for 3 months. So this is pretty important, because at the end of the June season, they no longer will be there. And after they will vanish, the new trees will appear. So then we'll bring back another 9 all seasonal trees and new 2 trees connected to something.
Ooh, something. Okay. Yeah, no leaks yet. No leaks just yet. But yeah, that's exciting. Something to look forward to. What about seasons and seasonal modes? What are the changes that are gonna happen here? Like, I think we should first start with seasonal modes. Are they here to stay, or are there gonna be some changes here?
Yeah, so they are staying. Everything is good here. Seasonal modes will rotate weekly as it is now, so no worries.
Cool.
Yeah.
And season naming will change now, so we won't have like we had previously, like Viper, Magic, Elf. Instead, for esports, we will have seasons now corresponding to months, simply, right?
Yeah, because it will be much simpler. So no longer season of the elf. Now it will be just April season. It also connects to the contracts. So all the contracts that are now in the game, the names will be changed. They will progress in the same manner. So please don't worry about it. It's just a change of the name for the simplification.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nice. Really, really cool. Yeah, I always had trouble with remembering which one was after the other one, especially when I'm doing like stuff like in-game news. I'm like bear and after bear, and love is before bear or after bear, and where does elf fall into that? I was just like, yeah, I know my names of the months, so I'll be able to do that. I learned that at school, so totally it'll be something that I won't have problems with. Exactly. Okay.
It will be easier, especially with the 3 months of trees available right now in the reward book. So they are not restricted right now by a singular amount. They will be available for 3 months.
Yeah.
So it would be confusing if we would still have the same name. So season of the elf, but here in the trees, in the reward book, we have elf, viper, and magic. And it will be, I think, confusing. And the months are universal.
Yes,
and as far as I know, a lot of players already use the names of the months. So
yeah, I feel like also like when it comes to like we do these monthly data, where we kind of put in like the player win rates and play rates, and it will be much easier just to keep track via month. And I think also when you look at like the esports teams that are making the meta reports, they also kind of go month by month because it's much easier to track and keep count of those things. Cool. Speaking of the near future and the maybe more distant future, maybe not too distant, but we'll see. Anything cool coming soon on the live ops side that you can tell us a little bit about, or leak something? Floor is yours here.
So there's some cool stuff that I would like to share with you. So first of all is about starter decks. We call them persistent starter decks because basically they'll no longer be removable or modified. So always in your deck collection you have the deck that will be available for you. So it doesn't matter if you have all the cards or not. Even if your card collection is empty, you'll always have those decks to play with them.
That's
so
really
this
cool.
is something cool, I think, for the new players and for maybe returning players, as you're coming back to the game and you cannot play with anything right now, so it could be sad. And then new players, we had a lot of reports when players were changing some stuff in their decks, and then they couldn't remember what they changed, and they were having like really bad experience. So the idea is that if you have this persistent decks, you can copy it and modify it and try something new. But if you like to go back to this basic starter decks, you can always do it. And they will be in the separate category, so you will not mix them up with your standard decks. And they are also not counting to the what's it called, to the amount of decks that
you own. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
so
because I think some players would be like, I don't want to play with starter decks. I only want my best top tier 1 decks like showing, so I can choose from, and I don't want to queue in by mistake into a deck that is a starter deck, and I know that on the rank that I currently am, it won't be able to perform. So it's really cool that they have their separate category, and they won't be going like messing with your stuff.
Exactly. So the veterans, don't worry, guys. You don't need to care about the starter decks, but the guys that will need them, they will have them.
Nice, perfect. Next up is new info screen. This is something that is coming right now with the update coming very soon, next week.
Both of those are coming right now.
Nice.
But new info screen, this is something cool that I wanted to do for some time, as I feel that there is a lot of content that we are adding to the game, and not everything is that visible for our people. So the idea is that after the release of the update, you will have the summary of all interesting stuff on one screen. And from the screen, you'll be able to go to the places that you're interested in. So for example, a small sneak peek, there will be a tile about the new reward book page. So if you'll click on it, you'll be redirected to the proper page in the reward book. So this is something I think cool. And it will be visible only on logging after the updates, or when we would like to announce something big or important for us. But guys will be able to go there whenever you want. There will be this small little button to not bother anyone. If you like to see it and read it and check it out once again, because you clicked too fast to go to the game.
That happens to all of us.
To do it. Exactly.
Yeah, but this is a very cool addition because it gives you pretty much all the important information that came with the update. So pretty much you can check out all the things that have changed. Normally we try to do this kind of in in-game news, but in-game news you don't always like click on everything. Plus they are rotating constantly, and here you get like this beautiful, let's say, newspaper view kind of the things that are happening and kind of changed. So you just click on them, you get into like the links, you can check it out for yourself, and all the important information is kind of just fed to you, which is perfect.
Exactly. That's the idea.
So if we go further into the future, what's in store for us here, Gwent people?
A little bit later, there's something that I think a lot of people is excited about because it was already announced on the roadmap. It's Infinite Journey.
Ooh.
And honestly, I cannot wait to see how you guys will react to it, how you guys will like it. There's a couple of changes, new vanities, new rewards. So yeah.
Good,
cool
because
stuff.
Players that have everything, they're kind of like, I don't know if I'll be replaying this because there's nothing new, but there will be a little bit of new stuff, right?
Yes, new stuff, and I think it's really nice stuff. So especially that at the beginning with the journeys, or maybe I will rephrase it. So with each journey, we were improving and making the journeys a little bit different.
I agree.
But because of it, the old journeys, like Geralt and Ciri, didn't have all of the stuff that, for example, Regis had. So we'll change some stuff and bring something, that was missing in at least our opinion.
That's really awesome. That's really big. Thank you for that. That's a juicy leak. For sure. All right. Anything else? Any closing statements before we go back to Ryan and me to close off this video?
Well, I could talk about events and other stuff, but maybe let's have the surprises for later.
Ooh.
Maybe it's not my last visit here.
I hope so.
So what can I say? Thank you for having me here. And I hope you guys will like what we will release.
Awesome. Cool. Ola, thank you as always. It was a very fun segment. And we shall see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Welcome back, Ryan. Good to have you. Man, this has been a long video, but I think we covered everything that we wanted. And just a short reminder, we're launching on April 5th, which is very soon.
April 5th.
April 5th.
April 5th, right around the corner. 2 more days, Tuesday. And probably the usual time, 10 a.m., 12, noon, around noon.
And patch notes probably a day before, so probably tomorrow, right? On Monday.
Yeah, it should be out tomorrow. All the juicy stuff that's coming on Tuesday. You can read up on that. As we said in the part with Jean as well, we didn't include everything in this video because, it's already a very content-heavy one, but there's even more coming on Tuesday, so be prepared.
Yes, you'll be able to read through everything and start theory crafting which decks will perform the best in this. And of course, I can't wait for the first week of everybody posting like this deck is a meta breaker, 100% win ratio. It won 5 games out of 5.
Completely busted, yeah.
Completely busted. CDPR, please nerf. One thing to take into account that we didn't mention is that some of the sound effects for premium cards, for some of them only, coming with this update, the new ones, of course, will be missing some of the ambient sounds, which will be, of course, fixed with the next update coming in May. So giving you a heads up about that, because before someone posts somewhere that we are shadow nerfing the sound effects in cards, we're not talking about it. So for those people out there, we have addressed it already.
Exactly.
And the biggest leak of the week or of the month is Ryan is being promoted to community manager. So everybody take your sweet couple minutes to write to Ryan, Twitter, Discord. He's everywhere. And congratulate him. And congratulations, Ryan. A solid work.
Thank you very much, Butcher. It's been an honor to work with you and the whole team, and especially the community. I mean, being part of the community before I joined, I felt a burning passion for the game. So it's kind of, sometimes I don't realize how quick this time flies, and how honored I am that I get to work with everyone all the time. So thank you very much. And now finally people won't ask like, what's the difference between specialist and aren't you a community? Now I'm a community manager.
Yes, now it's official. But I feel like you've been the community manager all this time since you joined the company. And yeah, you have this burning passion for the game, which is beautiful. And I'm really happy and glad to have you on my team. So yeah.
Learn from the best.
Best way to end the video. Totally. Love it. All right. That is it. We won't be taking any more of your time. Enjoy the finals and good luck to the players. And we shall catch you probably with the next developer update coming by the end of April.
Good luck. Have fun.
Bye.
Bye.